All right, thank you very much. I guess before I start, I should, certainly thank the sponsors. I have had the opportunity to work with all kinds of product camps with Jason Brett in Atlanta, folks up in Boston, Nashville. But what I've always found is beneficial at product camps is learning from other folks. And I've certainly used product camps, the companies I've worked with, to fill those gaps, maybe skills or aspirations. So take the time to engage some of the folks that make this happen, from the volunteers and the sponsors. And today in this session, I'm going to spend some time really drilling into how do you create a career roadmap. What are some common insights that you might get around stats or different paths forward? And I don't know what your path was into product management, but mine was pretty weird. I started out as business analyst, and well, I should start. My background is geography and geology. I got an undergrad in political science. Um, Somehow I ended up at a software company doing business analyst work, and in walks the new leader of our organization post acquisition, and people are getting invited into rooms and not coming back. So I get invited to a room, and the gentleman says to me, "You know what? We don't really have business analysts, but the closest thing we have for you is a product manager." And so I was just happy that I had the opportunity to learn on the job. And I would say that my path has been pretty circuitous, different industries, different geographies, and the like. But I will say that I always had kind of, what is that next step? What's 3 to 5 years look like? And I don't know what your career path is and aspirations, but in many teams and many individuals, the career path that people are thinking about really is that sort of linear. I'm going to start an individual contributor. I'm going to, then manage teams or multiple products. And then as I ascend up that career path, maybe someday I'll be CEO. And that's a great thing to think. And if you're going to have that plan to ascend that hierarchy, as Ken Norton put together here, you just need to figure out which path you want. I'm not sure there's just one, but the path always starts with just at least acknowledging or understanding that why do I want to be a product manager? I think there's lots of examples, both good and bad, of people pursuing product management for the wrong reasons. I think, but we all have to have aspirations for the future, right? We got a blue sky. We have to figure out kind of what the next step is. And I always wonder in life, in my career, and a career path starting in product management may end up in operations. I've had the luxury of being a chief operating officer a couple times. But I also like watching folks trying to learn about the discipline or figuring out how to break in. Lots of folks are chatting online. This is an engineer thinking about how to come into product management. There are other folks with different skills that I want to be able to use my past experiences around design. And some folks are like, you know what? I've got an education, got a passion for this. I want to figure out what product management is. And I don't know what the drivers are. You want to be creative and be a designer. You want to take ideas and turn them into products. That's an exciting process. Maybe, it could be you just hate development, right? You're like, can I not develop products and write code anymore? But whatever your reason, make sure you know where you are and make sure you have an understanding of why you're there. And I really hope it's not just about the money. I mean, there's lots of certainly upward projection opportunities in product management. But if it's about money, I would offer that it'll be a fairly unfulfilling career path. You got to have a passion for what you're doing. You've got to have an understanding or at least empathy for the people you work with in their roles. And if look at these numbers, they aren't that big. I mean, there's probably Amazon warehouse workers that don't take stress home. that make this kind of cash in some geographies. So do it for the right reasons, because if you're doing it for the wrong reasons, you won't be able to relax or maybe enjoy your life. And there's a little piece of research here from Pendo. They just released a study of product managers. Pendo is a software company. And one of the questions they asked, like, how likely are you to refer other people into this career path? And I'm telling you, 20% NPS, net promoter score, isn't that high, right? And I think one of the reasons people struggle with product management is they go into it for the wrong reasons, or the wrong understanding. And well, it could just be they've got the wrong manager, right? They don't have a leader that guides them the right way, or they're in a culture that doesn't reward product management. So you got to figure out kind of why you want to do it, and then you got to understand where you are as an individual, inside an organization, and people you work with. And I don't know why I put this slide in. I guess I do. I only put this slide in because maybe the stress is being overworked. Maybe the stress is management issue, not really an individual contributor issue. And so this chart, basically from Pragmatic Institute, shows an idea of how much time people spend on tactical versus strategic. But the part I want to talk about is people are working more than 55 hours a week on a continuous basis as product managers. It's not sustainable. And so if you're all the way over in 60 and more, here's my recommendation to you: find a new job, right? There are many things you can go do where you're empowered for success. You're empowered to have a life and balance it against your career attributions or your career aspirations. And so figure out, are you at the right place? Because if you're not at the right place, it certainly could limit your success, or at least your understanding of what product management is. And so if I think about success in product people, putting together a career over time, it's about curiosity and learning. Successful product people they learn from their peers. They learn from their market, and they learn about their business. And so this is the Quartz Framework. I think Steve just ran through it in his last session. But at the center, it is, how can I understand, have the context, the empathy of my market? And when I take that knowledge at the center of those folks I want to delight and ultimately take money from as a product lead, I will find new things I can, discover, new opportunities. And then I got to learn what my business cares about. What's their strategy? How do they analyze investment? And those are different skills, different tactics. But if we can get things committed, funded, then we can share our vision. We understand where we're trying to go. We understand where we are today, and we put together a plan, a roadmap, a release plan. We put together some content, epics, and stories, and we hand that off to the folks to create the best product. And once that product is on the shelf, then we're going to deliver it to the market with stories and targets and audiences. And we're going to measure that and connect to create the right beliefs. And central to that is what our users care about, what our business cares about, what our peers and partners in the market, our buyers, care about. But each one of these parts of this framework have different activities. You know what? Some people like things better than other people, and they prefer to work with marketing folks. Maybe that puts you on the far side, the connect and deliver. Sometimes you want to be creative, work with the business, do innovation. That puts you in the discovery phase. But you need to understand that there's different roles, there's different activities. And the first part of effective career planning is figure out what you like, right? Where do you excel? Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to have things you don't like, right? I don't know that I like doing sales enablement over my career, but I knew it was something I had to do, or at least get proficient at, as I went up whatever path worked for me as an individual in the teams I've managed. And so first question you need to ask is, Where do you want to be? Do you want to focus on business activities? Do you want to build product, work in technology, or if you're a software vendor, hardware vendor? Do you want to go tell stories? And underneath every single one of these sort of segments on the Quartz framework, or whatever framework you use, there's different paths, there's different titles, and there's different skills you need to develop. And so, as you can see in this particular chart, the business, the tech, and the marketing, they all kind of have a similar set of levels: VPs, contributors, etc. And so, first anchor out on where you want to be, and then be introspective to say, where are my gaps to ascend the next step? And there's not just one path. I mean, Ken Norton did a great piece in his newsletter just this week, talking about maybe we should have 3 tracks: a technical track, a business track, and a marketing track. And we can extend whatever hierarchy works well for us, but then ultimately develop and deliver the single path for us as individuals. I mean, my path from geography to product management to consulting and operations was always developed on what's the next step? What's that next goal I want to achieve as an individual, and partner with my teams to make us all successful. And so, how do you fill those gaps? That's it's always a question. There's some interesting insights online, and one of the set of insights that I really like is there's a gentleman, Greg Pickrell, has put together a product management group on Facebook, and this question of, should I get a certificate, get some training? Will it get me a job? And I love the response: absolutely none will get you a job. But they might give you the concepts, the common language, and in some ways a shared experience of how you work together. They can be useful, but they aren't determinative, right? And so you need to figure out the right kind of training. If you want to be technical, maybe you go get some Scrum training. Maybe you do some SAFe training. If you want to follow the business path, maybe the type of training you need is financial literacy, or going to do some work around RevRec, and getting an MBA might even be something that's interesting for you. Maybe you want to go get a marketing degree. But learning doesn't need to be formal to be meaningful. And every organization you're in offers an opportunity to learn, because success in different cultures requires different skills and develops different skills. Here's a piece from a product management festival. They put organizations into 4 different buckets: startups, agile, chaotic, and bureaucratic. And to succeed in each of these types of cultures, you're going to have to develop different skills. In a startup where kind of things are always changing and ad hoc, you got to be a little bit comfortable with real-time prioritization, quick and significant changes in what your strategy and your plan is. And often there's a lot of overlap between different roles, because we're all wearing a lot of hats, very utilitarian. So that's kind of like more of in many organizations, a generalist requirement. You may live in an agile organization. I think agile as a discipline helps companies. It makes folks accountable. It develops trust across teams as we get together, collaborate, as we put together plans and execute those plans as leaders. But the most important one isn't just accountable. To be accountable, you also have to be empowered, have the right systems, the right tools and the right data or insights that we've learned from the market or our business to make better decisions in a frequent way. In chaotic organizations, here's what I learned in chaotic organizations. I don't like them. And so I find myself a little more towards agile or bureaucratic. But I have learned things in chaotic organizations, prioritization, developing small teams that work together, and as a small focused team organized around a well articulated goal. It's amazing what you can do in some organizations that on the surface look chaotic, but that means you as a product leader can bring a little bit of order to your team by sharing data, by telling stories, by creating a vision that people can rally around and understand. And then, of course, as organizations grow and get larger, you need a little more bureaucracy. And in a bureaucratic organization, often you learn finance activities. You're doing a little bit more math than you might be doing in some of these other organizations around it. Return on investment, thresholds for break even. And there's not a good or bad culture here. They all can be successful, and they can all be a place to learn. Learn tolerance, learn prioritization, learn empathy, but also shared experiences. And I guess as a shared experience in most product camps, I don't know if you've had this before, but I don't think you can go through a product camp without a Steve Jobs quote. And so we have a quote that is attributed to Steve Jobs about good artists copy, great artists steal. And I use this here because we can steal things from our peers in the culture, both good and bad. And so look around your team, look at what you're trying to accomplish as a business, and put together a plan first for your role today. A roadmap requires success today to drive success in the future. And so find those partners, those peers that for good or ill can teach us and that we can copy and emulate. In fact, in many ways, fake it till you make it is inherent in good artist steal. Let's figure out who we can model. In fact, I would offer also that Steve Jobs was pretty good at it because the actual person that said it was Pablo Picasso. And yet many of us historically credit him as coming up with that. And it's really about learning the concept. How can we learn from others and find that path forward? And if we're really going to learn, maybe we want to make sure we quote it the right way. Good artists borrow, great artists steal. And as you work through your next steps, as you work through your plan, find a guide. And I don't know the right mentor for you, but I'm pretty sure it's not a random person on the internet, some rando that did a Facebook internship and got whacked at Google in 18 months. Step back and look at the mentors on your teams, your developers, your VPs, these people that are inside the organization that you're at today are great guides and resources to take that next path. And they'll also be honest with you because you've worked with him or her, you've received a level of trust, and they'll provide honest feedback because they've seen you in action. In fact, your guides are going to swap out as quickly as you change jobs or roles and goals along ascending that traditional hierarchy from individual contribute. I mean, if that's what you want to do, right? I don't know that you need to do that. That's, I think, Ken Norton's core argument in his newsletter this week. Pick a path for you. And if this traditional hierarchy up to business is what you want to pursue, then at some point you have to start letting go of the technology and start thinking about a business. And as you ascend higher in the organization, directors are managing people and executing business issues on the behalf of the VPs. Some skills, they will change over time and what's required for success. And what this slide shows from 280 Group is that as you move up, you're going to start thinking about pricing, business activities, and strategy. If you're talking about backlogs as a VP, then maybe you're having the wrong discussions, right? Figure out how you can develop the right skills to ascend whatever ladder you have. Because Norton says this: people should be encouraged to design their careers that align with their values and help them find fulfillment. Values aren't just work values, they're personal values, they're aspirations and the like. So how do you develop a career roadmap, and what is it? Easiest way to talk about a roadmap is it's a way for us to align activities, to create filters towards a goal. And it's a motivational narrative, a narrative we tell to ourselves. It's our career, a narrative and a story as we work in our product roadmaps. But the most important thing about a roadmap is it's not forever. It's 3 to 5 years. So what are you trying to accomplish as an individual, as a product person, in the next 3 to 5 years? I mean, certainly you can be audacious, right? I'm not saying don't grab something that is big. Be as audacious as is reasonable from where you are today and ultimately what you want to accomplish. And so the 4 key steps of figuring out your personal career roadmap is asking yourself in a very intellectually honest way, where do I want to be? Where do I see myself in a limited 3 to 5 year horizon? And then I got to get again introspective and try to put together a plan around what are those gaps I have and what do I need to do to fill those gaps. Maybe it's training, maybe it's read a book, maybe it's look at blogs. And then find your guides along the way, those mentors that invest in you and either hold you through tough times and empower you and celebrate you in great times. And so there is no single path, but it does start with learning. It starts about first learning about yourself, and then having that insatiable curiosity about yourself, your markets, and your teams. And I believe we are supposed to have about 10 minutes for questions. And so I guess I'm 2 minutes short from the 10-minute mark, but do we have any questions currently in the queue?
There is only one question that came up. It says, John, many people want to know the path to a PM job, but what are some paths from a PM job?
Oh, that's a great question. And so I've had the opportunity. I don't know. I'm gonna make up a number, but I think it's reasonably appropriate. I've probably managed about 300 people in various roles. I've been a COO once. I've been a CPO, and I will say that folks in product management, they can go to sales roles. In fact, some of the most successful pre-sales engineers and salespeople I've worked with in my career started in product, right? They had that passion and that desire to learn about their buyers, and they took that into the market and crushed their career. I know a handful of folks that have become CEOs, right? I mean, that whole path is not just not just fiction. It actually happens. Customer success, as organizations start investing more in managing the customer experience and putting together the right metrics and systems, They're great customer experience leaders, great design leaders. Many product teams are now getting designers in their functional organization. And so lots of different ways to go. I don't know if there's right or wrong. It just goes back to what are your passions. And so if I want to go be a salesperson, um, I probably want to go find someone in sales as my mentor. Someone I worked well with was a product person that knows, he or she knows my soft spots. I want to go be business. Maybe I partner with the CFO, chief financial officer. A mentor I had early in my career to help me from geographer to business guy was a guy named Ken. And that relationship with your CFO really puts a discipline and rigor with how you communicate to the executives, but also how you motivate and work with other teams. Great question.
Okay. The other question that I see here is, would love to learn more about getting those strategy skills to become a product leader.
Yeah, well, there's always a question of like, what strategy, what's tactics, you've probably been in that fight. You're in a meeting, someone's like, that's strategy, that's tactics. Strategy to me, I think we put this in some lofty pedestal that's unmerited, because strategy is very simple. It's what do we want to accomplish and who are we going to work with to accomplish that, right? I want to drive revenue growth. Okay, well, what segments are we going to? Who are the buyers and the users? And so once we identified those goals, goals are central, right? You got to have revenue goals, profit goals, satisfaction goals. But once we understand those goals, then we say, all right, what are we going to do to get there and who are we going to engage? And then any of that stuff around building features, backlog, that's how we do it. That's a tactic. But first we have to understand what and what we're trying to accomplish and what's the approach and targeting. Lots of great courses out there, lots of great blogs. The internet's a powerful thing. It really is. I stole most of this content from someone online. People are out there telling the right stories. The challenge that you need to have is how do you put it into action? Lots of people have gone to training. Businesses spend millions of dollars over the course of their product training people. But the benefit comes from that is you as an individual saying what I'm going to do with it. So read a book, read a blog, take a course, plenty of stuff online.
Okay, thank you. The next question is how important do you think it is for non-technical product people to develop a tech background? And does this matter more or less at more senior levels?
Great question. Well, I'm a geographer. I wouldn't put myself in the technology camp or strong technology. I spent all my career in software and SaaS. I think, I don't know that tech chops are required, but continuous improvement on yourself is. And so as I took that next step, I learned more business. But as you go up the hierarchy, certainly it's business acumen, not technology. That's not to say that technology folks can't ascend, but they've invested in acquiring those business skills over time. And so I think tech chops might get you in at the individual contributor perspective, but as you move up, you need soft skills, need leadership skills, motivational skills, and business acumen. So I think it's less important as you go up an organization, but in some companies, if the founder's a technologist, to get into that one company, you probably got to know tech. And so as companies mature and their product teams mature, that's where they get more of a business focus. Hopefully that helped answer that question.
Thank you. There was another question. I think you touched upon it, but again, I'll still read the question if you want to expand more on it. The question was more about how to find the mentors.
Yeah, I get asked that question sometimes. I don't know that there's more. I don't want to be snarky, right? But the reality is, just ask someone you trust, right? That is, some level farther on the desired career path that you're on. I do like them to be in business and in your business and culture. Over time, as I've developed those mentors, I created what I called a board of directors. A handful of folks I would meet with quarterly, and we would sit around and answer each other's questions as we started working together longer. So don't look for one. Understand you'll have many, and just ask. Right? All they can say is no, and there's lots of legitimate reasons to say no. He or she, may be overwhelmed with their current job and life. He or she um, might have already done that historically, and put his or her dues in. But it's really about asking. And if you find someone that you work with that you trust and you've got a positive relationship, just ask. In like real life, don't like send a Slack message, hashtag mentorship. That's probably not going to work.